Hey everyone, and welcome back to another Star Wars podcast. For today's episode, we have something very special. Matt and I were contacted by Lucasfilm around 2 weeks ago to participate in a fan roundtable promoting Star Wars Visions. This was a really exciting opportunity because we got to speak with James Waugh, the executive producer of Lucasfilm, and Kanako Shirasaki, the producer of Star Wars Visions. This was a really, really cool thing to take part in because we got to ask them questions about, the process, how they first created Star Wars Visions, how talks about the project even came about. We did do this with around, 6 other podcasts, I want to say. And it was just a really, really great time. So we were really grateful for that opportunity. So we're going to share this interview, but just a quick note, we're only going to share the questions that Matt and I asked. We're doing this because Lucasfilm asked us to not use the audio of any of the other podcasts that took part in this interview. Typically, I would say that Matt and I would re-record the questions from the other podcasters and then, insert James and Kanako's answers. But Matt and I have had really hectic lives lately, and I just don't know when we would get the opportunity to do that. So we're going to share our questions that we asked today, but I do highly recommend checking out the other podcasts and the questions that they asked. For your reference, the other podcasts that took part in this interview were Coffee with Kenobi, Fangirls Going Rogue, Fantha Tracks, Full of Sith, Jedi News, and theforce.net. Highly recommend checking out those podcasts. I'm pretty sure they've probably posted, the full interviews, but this was just a great time all around, and I think you guys would find the answers that James and Kanako gave were really insightful and, fun. It's always good to learn about these Star Wars projects and the minds behind them and, kind of getting into their head and their process, so highly recommend that. Hope you guys enjoy this interview. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Another Star Wars Podcast, or you can follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Anchor, Breaker, iHeartRadio. We're basically wherever you listen, so make sure that you check us out and leave us a review. Every little bit helps, and we really appreciate you guys. Let us know what you thought about this interview, and as always, may the Force be with you. So first of all, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to speak with us. I'm really excited to be here. My question for both of you is, with Star Wars Visions, this is obviously a unique crossover of two very different storytelling mediums. When the initial idea to do this project came about, did you find blending the different worlds of anime and Star Wars a challenge, or did you find it came together rather seamlessly? I noticed with the first episode, The Duel, I was like watching it and you see these characters come out and you're like, oh, this is anime. But then the music comes over and you go, but it's Star Wars. And then like halfway through the episode, you're like, oh, it's a Star Wars anime. So how would you describe how you achieved this?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think in truth, it was actually pretty seamless. And what I mean by that is so much of Star Wars is influenced by a similar cinematic language is anime, and a lot of that is Kurosawa and Jedi films and a lot of Japanese cinema. And so I think in many ways these things really harmonize, and to that point, I think we've been inspired by anime for a long time. I don't think it's any secret that a lot of our work, it's very clear that there's a deep love for Japanese animation at Lucasfilm. There has been for a long time, George included. And so I think, it was not the challenge was really more about excavating the Star Wars heart and soul, and making sure that when we say what is anime, each of these stories and each of these studios really have a different tone and a different feel. And, it really hopefully paints like the broad swath of like all the diversity you get with anime. So it's really just finding the heart and soul of each one of these stories and helping these creators tell the best Star Wars story that was as authentic as possible. But, at its core, I think the imaginative world building of Star Wars is very similar to what anime creators are doing, and the very visual cinematic language and action sequences that anime is known for is very similar to what George was doing, and we've carried forward in current Star Wars storytelling.
I agree, because it's all the creators are hugely influenced by Star Wars. So, and then they love Star Wars so much. So when we're talking about the story and ideas, like they know what they want to do, and then they know what's the essence of the Star Wars universe. So yeah, so it's pretty seamless. Yeah. And it was very interesting. We have a very great conversation go back and forth between the studios in the production.
Yeah, and they were all. I mean, that's a good point, Kanako. Like literally every conversation we'd sit down, and I felt a kindred spirits, because the conversation usually started with the director talking about, oh, I saw Star Wars in 1977 in the theater, or I saw Phantom Menace in the theater in 1999, and it changed my life, and I realized I wanted to do that too, and I wanted to create worlds like that. And it's that moment of like, oh yeah, I know that feeling. And everybody that I think touches Star Wars knows that feeling.
Yeah.
Hi, James and Kanako. Thanks so much for joining again. So one of the things about this show that I thought was so exciting was it felt like a huge milestone for Star Wars, being such a unique crossover. And I guess for James specifically, you've worked on many Star Wars projects before. So I was kind of curious, how did Star Wars Visions compare to the previous Star Wars projects you've worked on, and how did it differ? Did you have to change your approach or anything?
No, I mean that's a really good question. Again, this kind of goes back to what I was saying before. You approach these stories, I think, from what's a good story and who's the creator and how do you help the creator realize their vision. We're not addicted. We don't really dictate at this company. We're not prescriptive. We believe in talent, and I think our goal is always to make sure that talent storytelling is as best as it could possibly be, and we work with them. No matter the medium, every medium has a different kind of form and challenge. I think the thing that was a little different with this expression, or this project in particular, is the visions framework, is the idea of, it's sometimes when you're dealing more with core fiction, it's okay, what part of the timeline are we on? How do we make this work so that the context of that era facilitates the story, and it's a dialogue in that regard. We got there with some of these stories, but that wasn't what led it. It was we wanted to let these creators just explore anything that was exciting to them and influenced them over 40 years of Star Wars storytelling. So there were creators that said, my Star Wars was Knights of the Old Republic. Oh, wow, that really blew me away. I want to use elements of that. Okay, that's totally fine. And there were creators that wanted to stay more in the pocket of kind of traditional, the original trilogy. So it was really more of from that perspective. I think that was the difference, really, is it wasn't so, it didn't, the timeline art discussion didn't frame the context. It was lean into the animation first. What do you want to say? What do you want to do? And then we'll see how we can adjust. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. It always comes down to like, what's a good story? What is the story trying to say?